Yeah.
Hello, folks. This is Elena Wilkins coming your way with an amazing interview for today. We always talk about how possible or impossible it is to achieve a hormone balance naturally. So we talk about things like hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, thyroid eye disease, PCOS, endometriosis, infertility, and the list can go on. And the big question is always, is it really possible, Elena, to cure, to heal myself naturally? So while as a person who is a health coach, I cannot tell you I can cure you one thing, I can tell you without a fail, hundreds and hundreds of women just like myself and a woman who you're going to meet today, Lisa, have done just that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Lisa and Keith, her amazing husband who supported her through this whole process. And we're going to start today's conversations about Lisa's journey from having multiple symptoms. When she came to me, she had 39 that we counted, and going down to only 2 when she graduated last week, which is a 95% improvement, and how that was all possible. So Lisa and Keith, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for making yourself available to speak to our audience who are really eager to learn about how it is possible, what can be done, and if they, of course, stand a chance in achieving the same thing as you have done, Lisa.
Great. Thank you. And thank you so much for all of your help. We really appreciate everything that you have done for us and all of your training and your coaching.
Yes, thanks for having us.
Well, I'm super excited because it was about 13 weeks ago when I got on a call personally with Lisa, and we're talking about what she's going through, what would be possible. And Keith was there to support her, as all husbands and partners and wives should. And they had a big decision to make. Do we take this leap of faith and do this, or do we continue as we are? And of course, they made a chance, and here we are. So Lisa and Keith, here's what I'd like to do right now. I'd like to get a little bit of backstory. If you don't mind spending a couple of minutes of what had happened to you and what led you eventually to finding me. Can we start there?
Yes. So back in about 2013, I started notice a slow decline in my health. I just started noticing little things like just joint pain or just random pains all over my body, and then they would go away. I started getting skin rashes and gaining weight just out of nowhere. I hadn't changed any of my behavior at all. And, it was just little things at a time. So, and then it just started progressing over the next few years until I finally got to the point of doing my own research. I went to my traditional allopathic doctors. I look back now and I see that I had been going, month after month, getting different types of blood work, having different types of exams done, just trying to figure out what was wrong with me and why I was getting more and more tired, and just itchy, just cold all the time. And the only help that they could do for me was to tell me to exercise and eat more, because they couldn't find anything wrong with me at all. And so we started doing our own research, and I was already really healthy, really awake to the food system, eating non-GMO, eating organic, eating chemical-free as much as possible. So I knew that it couldn't just be my diet only. So we started doing our own research and came to the conclusion that I could be having subclinical hypothyroid. I thought I was suffering from chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia maybe, or even adrenal, they call it adrenal fatigue. So those were some of the things that my symptoms were pointing to.
Yeah. Right. So you're going through all this, and eventually you said you provided a little description for me. Let me appear here on a screen for a moment. So you provided a description that you made a lot of attempts, and you had files and files of MRIs and scans and lab tests and all. Eventually you did find a specialist who was able to help you get a little bit better. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? And then I want to talk, of course, about the fact how we took from a little bit better to all the way better.
Okay. So what was starting to happen with me was that I was just becoming so exhausted that I was really only able to function for about 3 to 4 good hours during a day. And so I get up in the morning, I would take my daughter to school and I would come back home and maybe I'd throw a load of laundry in or something, but I was just so overwhelmed by even doing that. And then I would have to go and rest again. And at that time I was also experiencing, some deaths in the family. I was experiencing, I had started a new business and obviously then my business wasn't doing very well. And one of my friends put me in touch with a naturopathic doctor who looked at all of my lab results, ran her own lab results, looked at the ultrasounds, looked at the MRIs, and we determined that luckily the allopathic system had determined there was nothing like really big, like they, okay, you don't have cancer or anything like that. So over the course of 2 years, she was able to help me to get my adrenals back on track by utilizing some supplements and getting rid of a whole ton of other supplements that I was taking, trying to fix myself, right? And it took about 2 years for me to start really getting some of my life back and some of my vitality. So we supported the adrenals and then we started supporting the thyroid with herbal tinctures, but the thyroid just wasn't quite coming back the way that we wanted it to. So then I did end up on thyroid medication as well.
Right. So thyroid medication is essentially there when you when you came to me, you were on thyroid medication and supplements. But I think often, and I'm so glad, Keith, you can join us today, is we oversee the fact here that when we suffer as the people with hormone imbalances, so for me, when I was suffering myself, for Lisa is with Lisa, we often don't talk about the effect that has on our families, our kids, our partners, our spouses. And in this sense, I was happy when you joined us on the initial call is you were paying a price for Lisa not being at 100% of her health. So what I'd love to do is I would actually love to dedicate some time talking about how Lisa's health was long-term affecting you and your daughter and your life.
Yeah, well, it was really difficult because, first of all, it's hard to sit there and watch her health decline and the fatigue and all this stuff happening. That's the worst part, is that kind of feeling of helplessness, not having anything that you can do about it. Also, our daughter, time with her mother and being able to do things and have Lisa there for her, that was missing. And there was a frustration because we are paying for medical insurance. I won't say who, but they weren't doing anything. I mean, it was okay to take a couple of tests here and there to maybe rule some stuff out. But when the doctor said, eat better and get exercise, I mean, honestly, to me, that sounds like a 7th grade gym coach. So that was frustration. And then everything that we were doing on the side was out of pocket. So you have health insurance, paying out of pocket, and she's unable to work a lot. So, I mean, on top of everything else, financially was tough. It was rough, and it was for a few years, barely getting by, and also having to pick up, like just sometimes stuff around the house. I mean, there were some nights come dinner time, she didn't have the energy, so you have to kind of pick it up. And, I don't recall complaining about it. Maybe at first, but then once I realized, hey, there is something wrong here, you just do what you got to do. That's, part of being a family is when one's down, you got to pick it up. But it does take its toll. It was a little rough.
Right. And it takes the toll. So I do appreciate the fact you mentioned financial and emotional. But one of the things when Lisa, and we're going to get there in a moment here, when Lisa and I were talking last week, she said, oh, and by the way, as I'm getting better, Keith was getting better. So she realized in the process, I think there was a disconnect that when you're suffering, it's not that we do this on purpose as wives, right, or partners, but we don't realize how much our family is suffering also physically, and your health might be suffering too, and that's being impacted. So I wanted to pay tribute today to all of the partners out there, to our spouses, to our wives, to our husbands, to our friends who are going through this hell with us, because we all talk often about how doctors don't know how to diagnose us, how doctors don't know how to service. We don't talk about how our spouses, our partners get completely unserved in a process. and they get neglected. And I think this is a big aha moment. And I always knew about this, but when Lisa mentioned it last week, I'm like, oh my God, you're so right. We talk about the time wasted, but we don't also talk about this emotional impact and the health impact on spouses. So let's take it now to the moment when we talk, actually all three of us were talking on a day of Lisa's strategy call, and there's this big decision to make, and it is scary. Can this be one more thing that does not work? But both of you, like, feet first, you jump in, you say yes, and then this journey begins. And Lisa, tell a little bit to me and everybody who's watching right now, how was it for you to go from that moment of I'm gonna say yes, and it is scary, to a moment of actually embracing it and implementing it? What was the biggest, first change, and then your biggest aha moments through this process?
Well, when we had our call and we all sat down and we talked together, everything that you were speaking to us, it sounded to me as though you had already walked the path. You'd already been there. And so you understood what we were going through. And like, I could tell, on your face, like, as we're talking, because I know I started getting kind of emotional on the call too, because it was just like, I just wanted to be better, and just really feeling kind of just desperate, like I don't know what to do from here. My naturopath has been helping me and she's been wonderful and I appreciate her, but I just wasn't there yet. I just wasn't enough. Like, I felt like I needed to get over the hump and I didn't even know how. And so when we were talking about the investment, Keith and I got off the call for a minute and discussed it. And there's an investment, but we realized that the investment in the health coaching, we had to ask ourselves a question: how much have we already lost, financially, emotionally, just in our lives? What is the, we're not living in the abundance that we're created to live in. And so we just prayed on it and received peace that it was the right direction to go. And so we did. We signed up and decided that we were just going to do everything that you told us to do. So
the best decision for a health coach is like music to my ears. They decided to do everything because, believe it or not, there are some moments when people don't want to do everything. They're like, okay, well, I'll just do the diet portion. I'll just do this portion. And you and I and Keith, you guys know we went way, way beyond the diet. So let's talk about the transition. The diet we always talk about, it's like the 10% of your change, although it's 50% of your success, but it's 10% of your change.
Yeah.
And I know you embraced the diet, but what was your biggest shift that you made when you were working with me for the last 3 months?
The biggest shift was realizing that I had to know that I didn't know it all and to just surrender to the process and be okay with it and just accept it and then just make the provision for it. So we all sat down together at the dinner table. We also have a 14-year-old daughter here, and just said, for the next 10 weeks, this is what we're doing. This is how we're eating. I'm not buying butter anymore. And yeah. So we just had to have a decision about it, or we had to have a conversation about it being a family decision for this amount of time, and to just really to embrace it, all of us together, so that way we could all learn something and heal through the process.
So as the person who was on the receiving portion of it, right? You are the main focus. You realize how important the support of the whole family was.
Absolutely. Yes. So we used your shopping plans. You had the meal list, and just modified it where needed, just to make sure we were buying what we had available to us here, and just taking it bit by bit. And it's like, do one thing at a time. Okay, it was like the food the first week, and then as we started going through the food part of it, then I know that you and I realized that there was more than just food that was affecting my system and my body. So we kind of had to dig in a little deeper, which I would say that was the second big aha of embracing it. So with the food, the joint pain was gone. I started losing some weight that I had gained, and, my skin rashes and all of that started clearing up, but the exhaustion was still there. So I think that we had to kind of move from, okay, food is doing what it's doing, but we need to dig in more.
Right. And so during this whole process, Keith, you are the support person there. So the shift, you said, okay, I'm supporting my wife, Lisa. We're going to do this. What changes do you start experiencing yourself, and what changes do you see happen in Lisa during that time? So she just said no more joint pain, but you're the observer. You were always this watchful, protective husband. What do you see happen in her?
The first couple of weeks, yeah, I can see, excuse me, I could see her skin clearing and stuff like that. I think it was about the 7-week mark when her energy started coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even just the energy. It was kind of like her emotional part too. Emotionally, she was there, and just her cognitive abilities.
Mm-hmm.
The brain fog was going away, and that helped a lot too.
Right. The old feared brain fog. And I think, Lisa, you mentioned that the year before this, so last year, it really impacted you. And Keith, you mentioned it, the income earning ability goes away when your brain is not functioning at its full capacity. So as you're shifting and the brain fog is clearing up and the joint pain is going away, what is happening to your income at that time?
Well, I made some decisions in my business to take some of my responsibility off of my shoulders and to let somebody else kind of take care of like the marketing and the things I didn't need to do. And then because I was feeling better, I was able to connect more with my customers. So able to feel like I could get up and go out for a cup of hot tea and just get face to face with people and just start, kind of just getting back out there again where I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So your ability to earn money goes up tremendously because now you're no longer slugging around and having to take the afternoon nap, but you can take an afternoon tea with somebody who can actually be your client, which is fantastic. Yes. So you're getting better. The energy is coming up. You mentioned you have a 14-year-old. In what ways, Lisa and Keith, did you see that this started to bring your family back together? Not that it was apart, but to where it contributed more for you to be able to connect on a deeper level?
I think for us to just be able to talk about what was going on and just to be able to be open and say, hey, you know what, I'm struggling right now, but I'm really, really working on this. And then be able to take the tools that I was learning from you and to be able to apply it into other areas and into other relationships, just helping us to just to have better conversations and to have more understanding and to maybe to not have so many expectations of also, just to be real and be okay with where we were. And so I think that it brought us into a more comfortable space because now we were having, just like I said, just more understanding. So
well, I think another thing that really came out of this was our daughter is young enough to make that change, because we still grew up before a lot of the GMOs and stuff really kicked in. She didn't. They've been around her entire life. And I think there's going to be a lot of people in her generation that are going to have some problems sooner. There's going to be people in their 20s that are going to start having this problem that people are now having in their 30s and 40s. And I think it's important for her to be able to see where Lisa was and how she got out of it while she's still 14. She's still young enough where if she makes some changes now, mentally, food-wise, all the medications that are out there in the world and all the antidepressants and stuff like that, she's going to see that, and she's going to have Lisa as an example that, no, I don't need like maybe antidepressants or supplements, and I don't need GMOs, and I need to eat well and be mentally well too.
Yeah, funny. We went to a restaurant with a family member. This was just like 2 weeks ago, and she got something that had cheese. It was like a macaroni and cheese thing, or however. Because I'm not like stress, like on her, like, oh, you have to do this all the time. It's just like you make your choices, but in the house, this is how we're going to eat. And so she ate it and had cheese and all that, and she's like, oh, this is kind of rich. I don't know that I feel so good. Maybe I don't want to eat like this anymore. So it was just really interesting. I didn't have to tell her no. She just got to experience the difference for herself from how we were living at home versus then taking it outside and doing something different. So yeah, so it was a great learning experience for her in that moment. So that's just a great example of it.
Yeah, and I think it's powerful. I think that we're talking about always, mommy is not happy, nobody's happy, but really it goes deeper than that. When the parents are not well, our children are picking up this idea of how we think, how we live, how we relate, which makes up the whole person. So your journey certainly was, the diet is a part of it. There's something else a part of it. And oftentimes doctors just don't know to look for it because they look like there's a machine. It's called the body. There are organs. Those are spare body parts. Let's medicate them. But we're looking at it as a separate condition. So it's a whole body. You address the whole thing, and your daughter gets to learn through this process. So you're not only, you mentioned earlier, so we are investing money into my health, but what you have really done is invested into your daughter, into your marriage, into your spouse, into your business, and now it's coming back with.
That's correct. Mm-hmm. Yes. So, and interesting, like talking about the financial investment too, that's what we were thinking about, was the financial investment. Well, how much money have I lost by not being engaged in my business? And by being able to be engaged in my business, I've already earned my investment back, essentially financially, but also my health. So it's like I can earn it now 3 or 4 times more this year versus just being laid out on the couch exhausted, or laying in bed by 1 o'clock every afternoon having to take a nap, Yeah.
Honestly, when we were trying to decide if we were going to make this choice, it was the initial conversation we had with you where we're pretty aware of things, a lot of this stuff. So when you were talking about the mental aspect of it, the spiritual aspect, that how it all ties together and it's not separate, it's not compartmentalized, that was something that kind of stuck in our head, and that was one of the reasons that we did decide to go for it. Was she makes sense. This sounds like she's onto something here.
I love that. And I love the connection, because we have done for the last 100 years of modern medicine separated the two. Oh my God, we're talking about spirit and you have to be religious, where we now know, yes, you can be a religious person, a person of faith, or just spiritually aware person, to tie those together. So why don't we, this is a great introduction to that. So the diet is a portion of that. And plus it seems like you embrace the plant-based diet. So those of you who are watching, is whole foods, plant-based, low fat, don't call it vegan, but Lisa, you have made that choice, you transition. How do you guys enjoy that new dietary lifestyle before we move to the emotional part of it?
I enjoy it. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I like eating 5 times a day. So because I'm not a big meal person anyways, and I really hadn't been in my past and all of that. And I think I ended up kind of transitioning into that, when we got married, things kind of changed. And so I just feel like this is a more natural way for myself of doing things anyways. So I feel like it's more honoring to myself to eat more of the plant-based. My stomach feels better. I'm not having hypoglycemic crashes. So then my energy is more steady through the day. I'm not doing like the crazy sugar cravings and all of that. So I just enjoy fruits and vegetables. So it works really well. I like it.
So it's not as scary as, where do you get your protein, especially when you're a man, right, Keith?
Yeah. I mean, like our daughter and I, we can still occasionally, like once a week, we'll go out and we'll cheat. We'll go get like maybe a hamburger or something like that. Mm-hmm. But not having it in the house, it just severely cuts back on that. We don't have any dairy in the house at all. And I actually have diverticulosis, and I haven't had any pain in my intestines, I think, since we started. I mean, maybe once at the very beginning.
But yeah, his stomach has definitely improved a lot. So yeah. So
we really, it was not Lisa getting better, it was Lisa and Keith getting better together, which is a double blessing in a sense that is taking away the worry, because diverticulosis, not only is it a mouthful to say, it's really a painful experience.
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah. So
yeah. Okay. So shift number 2, diet is out of the way, but Lisa is not 100% yet. Right, Lisa? And we're looking at what else. So tell me, how did your other parts? So we always talk about your dietary life. We're talking about your stress. We're talking lifestyle. We're talking about your past. We're talking about your relationships. What was your biggest aha moment that when you made that shift, that you saw that fatigue clear up and you were starting to come back to yourself?
I always knew that I had anxiety, I had a little bit of a stressful life growing up. And then there were some other things that had happened to me that I thought that I had dealt with in my heart, relationally. And I didn't realize the amount of anxiety that I was carrying around, and, how that was just transmitting into just stress and into overwhelm. It was just overflowing into all areas of my life. So my big aha moment was when you had me do an exercise where I had to write down all the things that were stressing me out and what would be my solution for them, which I had a kind of a hard time figuring out what my solution was even for those things. But you really gave me a different perspective on how to look at things, to look at them sometimes even as opportunities, or to even just let them go. I didn't need it anymore, so I feel like the stress and the anxiety that I had been carrying around, and it was just almost kind of like it was always there, it's significantly decreased. And then when the stress starts to come back up, or the anxiety starts to come back up, I just don't agree with it anymore. I'm like, nope, we already dealt with that. Push that aside. I have a different way of doing this now.
Yeah. Awesome. And let's talk about last week. You mentioned something that I thought was very amazing. And whenever my clients say something amazing, I write it down. I'm like, I'm going to teach this in the future.
Yeah.
You mentioned something that as you're transitioning and you were getting better, there were still some days when you get tired, and 12 weeks to go from 39 symptoms down to 2 is a huge leap by all measures. But we also know that it takes a few more weeks to finally finalize it, and for the rest of your body to catch up with it. And you said one time you wake up and you're feeling tired, and then you thought, is it my body talking, or is it my habit talking? So is it my belief? So let's talk about how your beliefs had something to do with your healing.
Yes. Okay. So an example of that would be, I was experiencing that fact that I was feeling overwhelmed by everything. And so just believing that there was too much going on, or I didn't have enough time, or things like that. So this just happened to me maybe 3 weeks ago. I told Keith, I said, I had a bunch of appointments for the day, and they were things I had planned for myself to do. And as I got back into the truck to go to my next appointment, the thought came that said, oh, I feel so overwhelmed. And I stopped for a second, and I'm like, wait a second, I don't feel overwhelmed. I said, I don't believe that. I don't agree with that any longer. Instead, I get to go and, I get to go meet my business partner, because we're going to go door knocking today, and we always have so much fun with that. And then I get to go to this other appointment and go meet with the client and give them keys, or I get to go and do these things that I put on my schedule today. So changing the way that I'm thinking about the things I have going on. And I love another thing too that you helped me a lot with was the whole idea of the work-life balance. There's no such thing. And as
there is, so let's pause it for everybody who is 9 to 5ers or 8 to 4, whatever you do, or business owners. It has to be absolutely free, and there will never be perfect balance in your life. And the moment you realize that and you stop torturing yourself, you'll be perfectly in balance in every moment in your life.
Yes. So being in perfect balance with myself, like saying yes to what I need to say yes to and no to what I need to say no to is good. And you have a whole teaching on listening to the internal navigation system. So having you walk me through that teaching, and then understanding that I never actually learned how to listen to myself in fullness. I was always feeling obligated to other people, or I have to do this, or I have to do that. And once you started to help me to learn about myself, and that it's okay for me to listen to myself, I mean, that was a huge aha for me.
Yeah, all of a sudden you go from a life of obligation and must-haves and must-dos to I get to. And just if you listen to the energy in those words, right? I get to be wealthy and healthy and happy to I have to go get clients and meetings and all. And one is really empowering. That's the life that you said I'm created for, of abundance and satisfaction, as opposed to a life of misery when you have to do things. So we actually don't use words like I have to, I must in our family. Most of the times we talk about we get to. And certainly there came freedom for you in that. So for you, Keith, as your shift, Lisa is going through the shifts and you're watching her go through the shifts. Has any of this touched you in a way that allowed you to make any shifts in your personal life?
Yeah, I actually started taking on that recently too, about, I get to, because right now I'm looking to transition to a different line of work. So as I'm going to work, it's easy when you're shifting away from that to start already mentally like not wanting to be there. So I'm transitioning from I have to go to work or I don't want to be here to, I get this opportunity to come here and I get to do this. And at the same time, I get to start something new. I've taken some classes and done some studying and testing and stuff. And instead of having to do this and feeling like it's a burden, I'm looking at it more the mindset of this is a new opportunity that I get to partake in.
Yeah. And how refreshing is that, right? The health is opportunity, life is an opportunity, relationships are an opportunity. All of a sudden, lifelong commitment to anxiety, because all of us have the subconscious program running. I have to, oh my God, no. So it causes anxiety on the subliminal level, but we get to say, instead of this fight or flight, we go into total relaxation and your body goes to healing, which happens for you, Lisa. So you go from, we do math with our clients. So intake, 39 symptoms, outtake, you had 2 symptoms. And now you told me that your doctor had reduced your medication to the minimum possible dosage. So what's in store for you as you're clearing up the last 2, as you have a chance to go off medication in the next few months? Tell me what are you looking forward in your life in the next few months?
Well, I'm looking for, we're actually going to go on vacation in July. And so we get to go on a trip, and I get to look forward to going on a trip. One of the things was, in the last couple of years to be like, oh my gosh, we're going to go someplace. I'm going to be so exhausted when I'm either there, when I get home. It was, this is my memory right here. It was like the year before, we went to Seattle. And, we're on a family trip, and in the afternoon, I'm having to go and take a nap in the middle of the day and missing that family engagement and that family time. So I'm just looking forward to going on a vacation and actually experiencing the whole thing. So, yes. And then also, just being able to engage in creativity, I love to produce artwork. And so to engage in creativity and to enjoy, just my daughter will be out of school for the summer, so we'll get to enjoy spending time together. And so I'm happy to live my life again. That's really what it comes down to. I'm like, oh, I get to actually be alive.
When I really
and if you have your wife back.
She was doing some food prep, for the week. And she was in the kitchen and she had her music playing and she was actually kind of bouncing around and kind of singing along and dancing and doing the cooking. And it was kind of nice. I hadn't seen that Lisa in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It was good to see.
She's
Yay.
Well, that was fantastic. And I know that you also both have this big dream. We talked about this on your first call is, so what happens, and by the way, if you ever end up on a call with me, this is what you're going to go through. So what happens when Lisa gets well? And sometimes people go, oh my God, I just don't want to be sick anymore. But you actually were able to dream because you have this dream of serving others. And you always felt like I can't fully serve them until I'm well. And now that you are. So how soon are you going to embark on that part of your life?
Well, actually right away, because I mean, we do have a larger dream of, you know, we want to own a property where we can have individuals, like maybe like lower income families, things like that, that never would have the opportunity to go on vacation or go camping or something like that. And we want to have them be able to come to our property for a ministry weekend, and for, you know, the adults to be able to engage in kind of like a marriage class, so that way they can have healthy relationships there, and then the kids get some time to like play and fish and s'mores and artwork and all of those kinds of fun things. But what we decided to do is, until we can buy our property, we can use our property that we have here just for daytime things, you know. So it's like we want to engage in it right away. So we're already starting to, you know, work on the patio and work on the plants and kind of developing a plan. And we actually already have our garden started, which is great. We didn't even have a garden, you know, last year. So, and like, cause we like to grow our own fruits and vegetables also. So it's like, you know, we don't have to wait. We can do it now. We can just enjoy it now where we are. And I think that's the other biggest aha too, is just learning that we can learn to just be living in contentment here, and we can still have dreams and be working towards that. And then when we get there, then we just take what we learned here and we just bring it over there with us, and we live happy there too, you know? So.
Yes, yes, and you can dream again, and that is the biggest, I think, sign that you are well again. Because a lot of times we forget to dream because we're surviving. So you're well on your way, and that is fantastic. That you don't have to wait 10 years from now; you are doing it now. So we do have questions coming in as you guys are talking. I was keeping them at bay, but I want to pop some of them up so that you can participate in answering them. Stacy said that she. Let me push this up here. She says, I live in complete brain fog, fatigue, also have POTS syndrome. I had to stop working for the last 2 years. So imagine for you, Lisa, it impacted your income last year. And Keith, you talked about it, but not to work for 2 years, that is a huge hit on anybody's livelihood and the quality of life. She says, hanging out with my friends is hardly happening because energy is just not there. So I give all to my friends and family with nothing left for herself. And I think that probably sounds much like what you went through, because you felt like you gave it all to everyone. At the end of the day, you're just flat out on your couch trying to make it.
Yes, I completely can understand what Stacy is going through. That's where I was. I mean, I quit going to, you know, my homeless outreach that I enjoyed doing so much. And I had quit going to my networking groups, or, you know, people would invite us over and it'd be like, yeah, I can come over, but, you know, by 6 p.m. I need to be back home because I'll be tired. So yes, I completely understand. That's exactly how I was feeling.
And a good thing that there is now hope for better. Tammy says that she's concerned about getting her husband and 3 teenagers on board with the diet, as you guys have done with your family. And she asks, do you have any recommendations on how to make the transition easier?
Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, well, I had to talk with Allison because at first she was complaining about the food. I don't want to eat like this, you know. So I had to sit her down. I don't know how old her kids are, but I had to just have a talk with her and say, look, you've seen what's been going on these last few years. You've seen what's going on with your mom. And we talked to her about the test results that came back, and it was pretty dire. I mean, she had one doctor say, I don't know how you're still here. You know, with your levels, a lot of times that, you know, causes cardiac arrest. And so we I just had to sit her down and tell her how important this was.
Mm-hmm.
This is something we got to do. Your mom is always there for you when you need stuff. When you really need your mom, she's there for you. Well, guess what? You have to be there for your mom this time.
Yeah.
And I did too. And they can still, as far as the diet, like I'll reward Allie. Sometimes we'll just go out and we'll get a little something to eat here or there. We'll, like maybe once a week, we'll have like a little bit of chicken or something like that. Lisa has to stick to it 100%. Allie and I can cheat a little bit, because we're still eating like 95% better than we were.
Yeah.
I love the full admission of guilt, but I love the point that you made here. It is an all family effort. Is it possible for women who work with me to do it if the family is not supportive? Yes, it's just a little bit harder. It is more stress, but the big conversation has to happen. Just like I love what you said, Keith, just right now. Your mom has been here for you and she's here for you. Now you need to be here for her. So it's no longer the selfish attempt, oh my God, I'm worried about how my family will do it. It's a grown-up conversation. Even if you have only a 7-year-old, you're sitting down saying, this is what needs to happen for mommy, but it also will benefit you, because if this happened to mommy, it could happen to you in the future. And involving the whole family. And the best thing that you can do if they are saying absolutely not, we don't want to do it, great. I'm going to make my meal, guys. You get to make your own meals. So there is no cafeteria. My mother never had a cafeteria. I never have a cafeteria. You eat what I make. And if you really want to misbehave and have an off meal, go out, get it on your own. But when you're in this house, you either make your own meal, or if you don't want to, you eat the way I eat. And you can always make your own side dish. What do you think about that, Lisa?
Yes, that's actually one of the conversations that we had, but also getting the kids involved in the meal planning was good as well. We'd say, okay, so tell me the vegetables and the fruits that you would like me to buy. Tell me the things that you want to eat. Or, there are certain foods that I know that she likes. So I would just always make sure to have those things in the house. And then we found some new things that we do enjoy eating. And I've actually found that I like the challenge. I found a couple of good websites where there's one lady, it is okay if I tell a website where I found so there's a lady, she's called the Minimalist Baker, and she does vegan recipes, and everything is 10 ingredients or less, including spices, and it's really good. So I'm like, hey, 10 ingredients or less, that's totally my speed. Let's do it. So just getting the family involved in the meal picking. I'm like, hey, you want to make blueberry muffins? She's like, yeah, let's make blueberry muffins. Great. Well, we're going to do it without butter and sugar and whatever. And we make something and it's good. So today she chose to make herself some pancakes, and she said, oh, but I used honey for the sweetener. Perfect. So yeah, get them involved.
One thing that helps too with her, we had we told her, well, go ahead and you're at the age where you can go find some meals, stuff that you like. Let us know what you'd like to add, help with the meal planning. Well, some time went by and it didn't happen. So she complained about the meals again. So we told her, told you before, you're more than welcome to plan some meals, do some research, and go look. Well, she didn't do it. So we just kept going. And then eventually, guess what happens? They start looking around. They start, if they don't like what they're eating, they start looking around. They start finding things. They start, when you go to the store, telling you what to pick up from the store for them.
Yeah.
You have to kind of throw the responsibility kind of back at them a little bit and let them make the decision.
Look at that, they're growing up and they're taking responsibility, as opposed to one day graduating from high school, going to college and say, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to eat. And they get
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Powerful. And Mitzi posted up here. She says, I'm a real estate broker too, and my business has been suffering due to my health. So it's not like you totally understand what Mitzi is going through.
Yeah. And Mitzi, that's why I chose to hire a marketing company to make sure that at least all my, my mailers and everything that needed to be automated could just be automated. That was actually a suggestion too that Elena had made to me. Like, she was talking about there were certain things that she had to just get off of her plate. And so she made the leap and made the decision, because there can only be so many of us. And which there's only one of me, and I can't do everything. So I said, okay, fine. This is the thing that I don't have to do. And so I took that off of my plate so that way I could focus on the things that were really important, like my health and then my clients. I thought, okay, if there's only two things that I can really focus on, it's got to be, you know, me and my family, our health, and my clients. So that, I mean, it was a big decision, but it certainly made all the difference.
Yes, it is. If Lisa comes to me and I'm like, great, Lisa, I'm going to support you, but then I go get lost in doing all the other things and Lisa gets none of my time, that will make my business suffer. So it is a really wise decision. So it's like my clients, when they get me, we talk about business a lot because I'm a business owner, that your genius, your level of genius has to be, your time has to be spent on your genius. And if marketing is not your genius, and if administrative work is not, you need to outsource it. And yes, you pay some people, but that means you can quadruple your income, as opposed to you sitting at your computer 72 hours straight through and working on your own. And when you don't have health, that actually will make it even worse. So you're working longer hours, but you're making less money because you're simply not effective.
Which is true. And then I didn't know what to expect once I signed up with you. But I would say that you exceeded any expectation that I had whatsoever, because I didn't know that you had a whole team of people keeping everything organized and on track. And so I was really impressed with the way everything was so well systematized, organized. You know, all the trainings were right there. All the support was right there. So I could tell that, like I said, again, you had already been through it. So you're living in it and doing it. And so it was a really great model for me to be able to follow as well.
Well, I'm glad I could serve on more than one level.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we have more questions. Stacy, who is also a real estate agent, basically says the same thing, that her health suffers, but then she comes back with follow-up questions here. I'm going to post it up here and read it off, because Lisa, you probably tried a lot of things while trying to get better. She says, I've been doing so much research, and some say keto for optimal health, and others say keto hurts the thyroid, liver, kidneys, and other body functions because of high fat content. So I'll let you go first. I'll jump in the back end of it, because there's also a question from, let's see, Elise, she's talking about blood type diet. So I'll address that in the same breath after that. But you probably tried some diets. Why don't you talk about what you tried and what did not work and why?
Well, I tried both keto and blood type diet, actually. So, so the keto, I think that actually kind of hurt me, because I was eating way too much protein, way too much fat, not getting enough fruits and vegetables in. So I think it further depleted my system as far as, the vitamin and mineral nutrients and such. So I was also very heavy feeling. And then with the adrenal fatigue, putting the additional burden on the body of having to break down all of those heavy meats and to be processing all of that food, I think further contributed to my exhaustion, because my body was expending so much energy just trying to digest all of that. And the keto it was not good for me. And so when I transitioned into eating healthier, the vegan lifestyle, I was still eating carbohydrates, and I kind of had that like, oh, should I eat a potato? Okay. But then, I felt so good eating the potato. I'm like, okay, it's good. Like, just eat the potato, get over it, There's minerals in
the potato.
Yeah. So I had done food allergy testing before I had met you. And I had a lot of foods that I had already cut out of my system. And some of those foods were on the blood type diet. I'm a type A. And so there were certain things that they say type A diet should not eat. So I had cut those out, and then I cut out my food allergy things. And honestly, I was just feeling so deprived. I had no clue what to eat. And then this isn't working and that's not working. And and then I feel like I was also creating additional stress because my body is like, whoa, what are you doing? Just like pick something and feed me, you know? And then I'm stressing out about food. So then there's this whole mental thing going on. And it was just, you know, because you're trying this and you're trying that. So like I said, I just jumped in with both feet with you and just said, whatever she says to do, I'm just going to do it. I don't know everything. Fine. Okay. You know, so yes, I will say I definitely tried all these different eating plans, and I never tried anything for long enough, I think, to even see a result out of it. So I've been doing this eating plan now for just over 3 months, and that's probably the longest I've ever actually done any eating plan. I don't know how many of you ladies out there try something for 2-3 weeks and then you give up and eat a donut, you know.
You don't see immediate results. That's it. Try something else, move on.
Yeah. So
I think you're making a valid point here that we do want to see results. So for you, you said first couple of weeks, you're starting to see the results and you are feeling better. So Stacy brought up she left a few comments basically saying one of her friends swears by it. She does it. And so I'm going to chime in here just for a small moment because I actually have a whole training on the keto diet. So if you want to listen to it, if you want to watch it, leave a comment, say I want keto diet training. I'll link to it after that. So maybe by tomorrow, you'll get a link. You can watch it. In short, here's what I'm going to say. Feeling better and getting better are two different things. If I don't have energy, I can go get a Red Bull and get some energy, but that doesn't mean it's good for me. So temporary outcome don't always equal to lasting results. We are working on lifelong commitment. So when Lisa said, oh my God, carbs, can I really eat them? Then she goes, oh my God, I love eating carbs 5 times a day. We embrace the lifestyle that our body was created for, our diet. So it makes it's intuitive, it's normal. I can go into the history of keto, which I do in the training. You'll be able to look at that. But in short, all of the diets, they sell a lot of books, right? The grain, the keto diet, the paleo, and they all go through phases. They are like purses. They go in and out of style. There was the Atkins diet. Now they're paleo. The paleo is kind of fading away. Now there's the big keto diet. Now that's going away. What's the next big thing? We're going for what is sustainable. What can you do for your family, for yourself, for the next 50 years of your life that you can sustainably say, I have no regrets. This is what I do. Most people who will go on the paleo, so too much protein, and protein needs to be broken down into carb-like substance, they're going to eventually release too many toxins into the body. You will suffer long-term. Short-term, sure, you'll get outcomes. Keto, same thing. You're going to put your body in ketosis. Now, most people who say they keep keto, they do not eat keto. To eat keto normally is designed for about 8 to 10 weeks maximum to help people who have seizures, so epileptic seizures. It was not designed for long-term. So people who actually use that, especially for children, they do it because nothing else works, and they're in a place where they might lose their children to another attack. So what they're doing is they're going to a ketogenic diet, which is putting body into ketosis where you can barely move because you're so exhausted, but it prevents more seizures from happening. So high-fat diet and keto diet are two different things, and high-fat diets will end up causing more problems than what you're bargaining for. Short-term outcomes, absolutely. You can even lose weight on it. Wait for a little bit, and that's going to come back to bite you. And by the way, Lisa, when you were talking about the fact that you're eating 5 meals a day and you're eating carbs, weren't you able to lose some weight while doing that?
I've lost 9 pounds, which is great. So I had put on 20 pounds, of which none of it was budging before. So to lose 9 pounds in the time frame is really great. But the best part about it is, we're going to be now starting slow exercise, because in the past I had been really fit. I actually worked as a vet tech for many years. So it's like I could deadlift an 80-pound dog up onto an exam table at 5 foot tall, no problem, And so to lose my muscle tone and to be having the loss of my strength. And so to me, it's like, 9 pounds is great, but now I'll start to be able to start getting my muscle tone back and to start being able to work out again, which I know will continue to facilitate back to a healthy weight. So I think it's even too just being able to have a healthy body image, not just about weight loss, but it's about the health of my body overall.
Absolutely. I did a survey recently on Facebook groups and Facebook page where I asked if you had to choose, it was tricky, between weight loss and being symptom free, which one do you choose? And there was really a huge separation between two, 60% weight loss, 40% symptom free, because sometimes we simply don't have a healthy body image or a healthy relationship with our bodies. But that is a whole training both of us can do for an hour, right?
Yeah.
So, but to make sure that it answers your question, Stacy, and I see Jeannie and others, you posted about different diets. Can you get short-term outcomes? Yes. And Jeannie, you asked about plant paradox diet. Honestly, I don't even have a clue because it must be one of the more recent ones. Sometimes there are so many dietary variations that I throw my hands up and say, I give up. And we go back to what is intuitive. Our clients eat 5 to 7 meals a day. They eat frequently. They eat a lot of healthy carbs. We don't count calories. We don't measure foods. We don't do anything crazy. And we make sure that you can find everything at the local grocery store. So if having a difficult diet works great for you, continue on. If not, then we are going to this. So let me see if there are any other questions. So yeah, Stacy says symptom-free for sure, most important thing in life. And yeah, when you want to go back to living, you want to be symptom-free because weight loss will always happen. So Lisa, you just mentioned you have not even gotten to working out yet because you just wanted to rebuild your strength, give your body enough time to regenerate the cells. And now 3 months later, you're going to go to working out and you still lost the dress size. So weight loss happens, people. It happens. It is good and it's natural.
Yes.
Okay. And let's see, we have one more questions here, and I think that will fall into my category a little bit here. Lisa, but Sonia wants to know, are PCOS and thyroid disorders related? The question is, they can be. And here's, I'm going to do a 1-minute session on what I believe about diseases. So we have classifications: coronary disease, cancers, thyroid issues, PCOS, endometriosis, and we call them names. We do it so we can easier diagnose people. At the end of the day, most of those illnesses are caused by the same thing: poor diet, poor lifestyle, stress, bad relationships, bad body image, trauma. If we address those, normally all of them, whether it's PCOS or hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's or thyroid eye disease, they're going to go away and clear themselves up. So Lisa, one of the things that you didn't ask for me is, when I come to work with you, Elena, can we just focus on, this symptom's going away? We focused on the whole body, and what happened was the whole body fixed itself, right?
Yes. And I would say that too, one of the biggest factors for me that I wasn't addressing before, that I didn't really know that I needed to address, was the trauma that my body was holding onto that needed to be released in order for the hormones to be able to come back into balance, because it was the lens that I was seeing my life through, that, when I was seeing the world as maybe, like the I have to's and the things that were put upon me or however. And so when I was looking at the lens through maybe a little bit less of a gratitude and things like that. So being able to change that perspective and deal with some of those deeper traumas and deal with some of those mindset issues, I would say has been one of the things that has really helped me so much in this process.
Yeah.
Very big.
The approach is take the whole person and then take the whole family, take the whole community, take the whole past, and create a whole life. Because what we also know, that reductionism does not work. More fats and forget about everything else is not going to fix anyone. Temporary outcomes. What we're talking about permanent, that means you address all of the areas that Lisa just listed for you. So that is fantastic. If you have any other questions right now, folks, now is the time to type them in. Let me know what they are so our guests here of honor can answer them. In the meantime, if you are looking to see, hey, can this woman help me also to do what Lisa has achieved? It's very, very simple process. It's a two-step process that Lisa has gone through that you can go through to see if this is for you. You schedule a call, and I just posted a link in the comment section. Click on the link, schedule a 15-minute call. We call them health clarity calls, and you get on a call and I interrogate you for 15 minutes. lots of questions really fast. And I see for a few things. Can this person be helped? Can I help this person? Do I want to work with this person? Will they do the work? Because if I get a whiff of somebody not doing the work, I will never work with them, because right now, 90 to 95% success rate, and we're shooting for 100. And then on the other side, on your side, you want to make sure that you put your money only into things that will benefit you. And I'm safeguarding that. Then, and only then, if we determine that you can be helped, we go to the second call, which Lisa and Keith experienced both. And that is sitting down and talking in depth about what the problems are, what your goals are. Can we help you there? How this will work for you? And then we move from there. So really focusing on what is best for you in this situation. And so if you want to schedule that, click on the link be there. For right now, I don't see any new questions coming in, or something is going on with Facebook. So I'm going to switch on over to our guests here, Lisa and Keith. And I'm going to ask one last question here. And Lisa, I ask every guest the same question. If you had one last piece of a parting advice here, what would you tell the women and the men who might be watching this right now? And Keith, that goes the same for you as well.
I would say just jump in and do it. And like I said, I feel like making the decision to work with Elena was really one of the best things that we did in order for me to get over the hump, so I could get to the place where I can experience living my life to the fullest again. So that would really be one of my biggest pieces of advice. Like she's the real deal. So yeah.
My advice would be, you have to agree to go all in and do it all.
Yes.
Like when you were saying, it's not just about the diet. It's a complete change, and you have to deal with some stuff like with the trauma and stuff. And some of that's not easy. Some people don't want to address certain things. One of the questions you asked us was, do I have your trust? And like I said, when we were having that conversation, there was a lot of things that made sense that we kind of already knew. And a lot of things you were saying, we just, sometimes you just kind of get that feeling like, she gets it. And so we thought, well, if we're going to make the financial commitment, we're going to make the commitment to do this. If we don't go all in and do it right, you're just wasting time, wasting money, and then you're not going to get better. And then we're just right back where we were. One more thing that didn't work. So we kind of had the conversation. If we're going to do this, we got to make the commitment to just do it 100% and just follow it and just do everything that you say and stick to it. That's what we did.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. I see a couple of more questions popped up here, so I'm going to read them off for you because for some reason they disappeared on our screen. So I was looking around, find another screen. Tammy wanted to know, she said, how long did it take to reduce anxiety symptoms? And was there anything significant that helped make that change for you?
I would say the anxiety symptoms were probably somewhere around the 7 to 8 week mark, because I had to, like, there's some things that we go through with meditation and with learning how to connect to ourselves. And then Elena gave me some other exercises to do. So it took time for me to work through those things. And I really had to schedule the time. I had to be very intentional. So I would go and I would drop off my daughter at school, and I would mark off that time in the morning and just say, okay, I'm working on this for this hour today. And I would just keep working on it every day. And so being able to work on the things that were going on in my mind and in my heart by using the tools that Elena gave to me. But it took about 2 months really to work through those things, because it's, how do I say it? It's not a magic pill. It's what's going on in your heart. It's what's gone on in your life. And you just have to be willing to look at it and to look at the effect that it's having. And then realize that, for me, what it came down to is I had to realize that, yeah, those were the things that happened, but I don't have to live there anymore. So
Yeah, and that
Everyone's level of anxiety is different.
that there's a lot of work goes into that. So anxiety can clear up for some people in 2 months, in a month. It really goes down to A, how long have you lived with it? B,
Mhm.
how hard are you willing to work on releasing it? So I'm right now
Yeah.
in the process of writing my book. I'm hoping to release it by the end of the year. And a part of it just was writing a chapter today is how we get addicted to negative emotions. So there are
Mhm.
actually chemicals released in our brain in a reward center when we are negative. So you think reward center, that's only for good behavior. No, you can even have jaw pain that will go to the reward center. The signals will fire out there. The anxiety, as much as we hated, the depression, as much as we hated, create this vicious cycle of the drug is being released into your bloodstream, created by your own body. You go, this feels at home. This feels familiar. I hate you. I'm here. It's like an abusive relationship. And you
Mhm.
go back and forth. So it's really, you roll up your sleeves, you get into it, and it is going to be a long-term payoff. And again, if you compare to, Lisa, you said 2 months, right? Compare that to 5 or 10 years when people are suffering. Still a really short turnaround time, but it does require your full-on participation.
It does. And I would say that it's more like the generalized anxiety is gone. I mean, it's not like it doesn't still come back or there's not still the temptation to live in it. But now I have tools to deal with it, which is what's important. So it's not like all of a sudden magically everything is better, but the tools are there. And that's what really makes the difference is I was telling Elena just maybe like a week ago, there was a situation that was occurring and I was able to stop for a second and kind of look at myself almost from the outside and say, wait a second, why am I feeling this? What's going on here? Let's kind of assess the issue. And so instead of just being like in anxiety, like, oh my gosh, this thing is happening or like whatever, I was able to utilize the tools to deal with it right then. And then there was no anxiety around it any longer. So that was huge for me. Very, very big.
Change is what it really is.
Yeah. And it's a journey. I mean, we're going to continue to process through this and continue learning even once the health coaching is, at the end. So
the triggers will always come up.
Yeah.
As you go through life, there's always going to be something that happens that's going to kind of trigger an old memory or something. And then that's where you have the tools to deal with it at that moment. So it doesn't become a crisis.
Yeah, and those are great distinctions to make. One more thing before we are done for today, I want to honor this last comment, Janine. She's just starting out. So she signed up last week. We're starting this week. And she says, I'm starting now, hopeful, hard to see the light because of all the health issues, but I know it's coming. So are there any words of encouragement that you can share with Janine, Lisa, as she's just starting out this process?
I would say just be really open with Elena about what it is that you're experiencing and what you're going through, because then she can provide you with the right tools for yourself. So just don't hold anything back and just be okay with being transparent and vulnerable with Elena, because that was the choice that I made. I thought, well, gosh, I can eat anything that she tells me to eat or not to eat. But it's the transparency and the vulnerability are where the healing is going to occur. So be willing to go through the process and just lay it all down. And then she'll give you the right tools that you're going to need in your arsenal, because she has all kinds of things in there I never even thought of. So
you can't fix it if she doesn't know about it.
Yeah, she can't help you. She can't help you work on it if she doesn't know about it. So just be transparent and vulnerable.
And thank you so much for that. So with that, I want to thank you both for showing up today, for being vulnerable, being so open. Right now, what you've done is the ministry that you're talking about. Going forward, lots and lots of people are going to see this interview and they're watching now. And for some of us, as you know, Lisa, when you are in a dire situation, hope is about the only thing that you need at that very moment. And you want to latch onto it so deeply. And this is the opportunity for a lot of people to say, if they can do it with 39 symptoms, with years of struggling with that, everything going on, and then the whole family benefiting, so can I. So
Mhm.
from the bottom of my heart, first of all, thank you for trusting me. And
Yeah.
Keith, remember that I love it that I did say, will you trust me? Trust is very important. We don't take it lightly, but you did trust me. You got what you came for. And now the whole world is better. Watch out, because Lisa and Keith can do the ministry, can increase their income, can go have a vacation without symptoms or without thinking, oh my God, I'll be too tired to even remember this vacation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how we change the world, right?
That's right. And so, and thank you for doing what you're doing. And I mean, from the bottom of my heart, I'm just like, I'm so, so grateful. So thank you very much for walking in your call as well.
Thank you. Oh, you all, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You've heard it from Lisa. You heard it from Keith. I used to be in Lisa's shoes and in your shoes. So we know what you're going through exactly spot on, because we've been there, but we also know what is possible for you. So if you are desperate for that deep change, and we're not talking about a quick fix to anything, although we do see this amazing results like Lisa in 95% improvement in only 12 weeks. We see that, but it comes with you at the center of it all. So if you're ready to do the work, you're ready to put yourself as a priority, you're ready to finally say, you know what, I deserve it, my family deserves it, my clients deserve it, and you're ready to jump in feet first, there's a link right under this video. Click on the link, schedule a call. Let's see what's possible for you. With that said, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night, folks. We will talk to you next time.
Bye.